Chris Paul is valuable. He leaves, teams get worse. He arrives, everybody gets better. I know nobody likes him, and he's difficult, but he's really valuable. Then there's guys like Giannis. I know he's talented, but Antoine, I'm over it. He's a bad late game player. They can't come from behind. Like, where do you land right now on Giannis in Milwaukee?
Giannis is a guy, and I agree with you to a certain degree, is that it's tough to coach him because he's a two-time MVP, and I don't want to take anything away from that. He's earned that award, and he's done a great job over the last 4 or 5 years of developing his game. But if he wants to be a champion, he has to get a post-up game. He has to get a mid-range game. I'm not necessarily concerned with the three-point shooting, maybe lessen your value and maybe take only a couple a game. And then the free throw shooting. I mean, he's shooting 64% right now. So that means that he cannot be trusted late in games. I think the Miami Heat put the blueprint out on him, how you're going to be able to guard him. And now teams are taking that in full advantage. If he's not in the open floor, it's very hard for Giannis to score. And he has to figure that out. So everybody's like, oh, the Bucks, he needs to lead the Bucks. He needs to go other places. He needs to do this and do that. They need to add this piece. Unfortunately, their problem was with their own personal superstar. He has to get better. His offensive skill level has to get up if he wants to compete with the Kevin Durant's, with the LeBron James of the world, if he wants to be in the championship contention. If not, they will continue to get bounced in the playoffs because of his lack of offensive performance. He has to get better. And I know it's tough because he's a two-time MVP, and what coach is going to step in and tell him that he has to get better?
Yeah, no. Your point, though, LeBron is always tinkering with his game to get better. It looks like Giannis is working on the stuff he wants to work on, but not elevating his game. Now, speaking of Brooklyn, listen, we all know it's a tremendous offensive team. I still don't think you can play. I think KD and James Harden could win a title if they were better defensively on the other spaces. What do you do with three great offensive players? I mean, I watch them when they play. They're terrible defensively, Antoine.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they're so talented offensively. This is the first time in NBA history that we're seeing three guys that do not really need each other offensively. All three of these guys can score the basketball, can do amazing things on the offensive end. But when you want to win a championship, Colin, you got to make sacrifices. When I played for the Miami Heat, I was in the prime of my career. When I came in, Pat Riley told me I need to make a sacrifice. I couldn't be a 20-10 guy no more. I had to do other things on the floor. The team was built around Shaq and D. Wade. These guys, somebody is going to have to make a commitment on the defensive end. I think Kevin Durant is very capable of doing that. We've seen him be a very good two-way player. James Harden has the body and the strength to be a good player. We see him make some defensive plays from time to time. But that's the question mark is Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving's never made a commitment to the defensive end, and he hurts you because the point guard is the toughest position in the NBA. Every night you're going against tough point guards. So I don't know if they have that. And they don't have the necessary role players besides DeAndre Jordan, who's kind of had a defensive, mentality on that team. So they're going to struggle at times. But I don't know if teams can get to 130. I don't know how many NBA teams in a 7-game series can get to 130. And then you got moments like last night where any one of those guys can get you 40. And that's very difficult to beat.
Yeah. It's interesting. This past week, I was home and I was watching Boston lose to Washington, and the internet exploded and people were banging on Brad Stevens. And my takeaway was watching that game. Have we overvalued the Celtics' talent? Now, I like Jason Tatum. I think he's really a spectacular talent. But I look at the rest of that team and I think it's a lot of guys. And I think to myself, nothing against Danny Ainge, but I don't see a lot of difference-maker players. Are the Celtics just a good team because they just have mostly good players?
They are a good team. I don't believe they're a championship team, especially now in the Eastern Conference where you got James Harden that's added to the Brooklyn Nets, and that's going to be very difficult for the next couple of years to get past them. But you got to start from the top. I think Kemba Walker is not the same guy. Because of injury. I think he's there downplaying his knee. He hasn't really recovered. You saw that in the bubble when he tried to come back. And even this season, he's not the same guy. I think it's something really wrong with his knee. I do like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum long-term to be your two wings. They seem like they work very well together. Where they dropped the ball a little bit is that they didn't get nothing for Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
I think if Gordon was going to go somewhere, you should have been able to get some type of big. I think you got a Dwight Howard that was out there. So you had to get a serviceable big that's going to be defensive minded for them. Now, granted, Marcus Smart is not playing right now, probably the heart and soul of this team. The one guy who can, guard 4 positions, and, he's the leader vocally on this team. So when he comes back, they'll be a little bit better. But when you talk about, I don't think they're better than Philly. I don't think they're better than the Milwaukee Bucks, even with the way Giannis is playing. And I know they're not better than Brooklyn. So they're still a ways away from getting over that. And be honest with you, Kyle, I don't know if Brad Stevens is the coach. I mean, he's honestly, he's done a terrific job. He's won a ton of games, but he hasn't got over that hump either.
Yeah.
So you got to put that out there too. Sometimes, we blame the player. Sometimes you got to look at the total situation there. So they're gonna continue to win games because they got 2 all-star wings. But what are you talking about? Getting to the championship level? I don't think they're there yet.
I only got 2 minutes left, Antoine, but I want to ask you this. Anthony Davis, forget the injury, was not having a very good year for him offensively, and we were expecting more. Is it fair to say that he's a talented guy, but he's never a 1? He's just the best 2 in NBA history. He doesn't have a 1 mentality. This was going to be the year, and he's played poorly offensively. Maybe that's just who he is.
No, I think the 71 days, the shortened season, he didn't understand it. Probably partied a little bit too long. Didn't come in probably the best shape possible. When we first saw him go to the Lakers, he was spending a lot of time with LeBron. You saw a lot of videos, a lot of Instagrams of them being in the weight room together. And I'm not saying I don't have insight to say that they're not doing that. But I felt like that just watching him, that he was not the same guy that we saw finish off in the bubble last year and play great in the playoffs. And to be great and to be one of the elite players in this league, every year you got to add a little something. You got to continue to get better. That's why the Kevin Durant's, the Steph Curry's, the LeBron James, the James Harden, those guys do it for 5, 6, 7, 8 years at a time because they continue to add things to their game. And right now we're not seeing that. But also you got to remember this too about Anthony Davis. He's always been injury prone. Always. And I think that's the reason why he signed a 5-year deal, because he knows he gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to put a 2-year deal or a 3-year deal on his body. So his pain tolerance is probably not very high. So LeBron James done a good job last year of keeping him focused on playing and not missing a lot of games, but they're going to miss him. And then you're going to have to wait till he gets back into basketball shape to make a real run. So him being out really hurts the Lakers as far as long term, because you got to get him right if LeBron wants to win another title.
Yeah, great stuff today, Antoine. 12 years in the NBA, a 3-time All-Star. I'm not sure if I've had you on before, but you make a lot of really interesting points. Mm-hmm. And a Chicago guy living in the city.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully they'll I think they've opened up restaurants a little bit in Chicago. Once this cold spell is gone, you can go out and go to Chicago Cut and Steak 48 and live it up a little.
I know. You come to Chicago, look me up now. Look me up. I'm right here.
I will. I promise I will. Great talking to you, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me on the show.
You bet. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.